I'm Jake. I'm 34, live just outside Denver, and for most of my adult life, I've been over backward trying to hold my family together, despite being the only one who ever really tried. I'm married to Emily, the love of my life since college, and we've got one daughter, Lily, who just turned 5. She's the kind of kid who makes strangers smile at the grocery store for no reason. She wears princess dresses to the park, insists her teddy bear buckles up in the car, and recently asked me if unicorns vote in elections. She's pure joy in human form. So when it came time to celebrate her 5th birthday, her first real party with school friends, I decided to go big. Not out of vanity or to show off, but because I wanted her to feel just how loved she is. And because, deep down, I was hoping my family would show up and prove to her what I had spent years trying to convince myself of, that they cared. I come from what some people would call a casually cruel family. You know the type, passive-aggressive jokes passed off as humor, affection rationed like a wartime commodity, and any display of emotional vulnerability dismissed as being dramatic. My parents, especially my dad, weren't outright abusive, but warmth wasn't their strong suit. I don't remember a single time he told me he was proud of me growing up, even when I got into college on a scholarship or landed my first real job. My mom played peacekeeper, which really meant she avoided conflict until it rotted from the inside out. Then there's my sister, Kelly, 2 years younger than me and forever convinced the world owed her something just for existing. She's always had this quiet resentment towards me, like my stability offended her. I used to think it was in my head. Then she started doing things like forgetting to invite me to her baby shower while still tagging me in the gift registry. Despite all this, I kept trying. I invited them to every holiday, made trips out to visit with Lily, sent birthday gifts on time, even paid for a family vacation once after my parents said they couldn't swing it this year. That trip ended with my dad complaining the Airbnb I booked didn't have a hot tub, and Kelly griping that Lily's bedtime made the evenings boring. But I brushed it off. I always did. Because I believed, foolishly, that one day, they'd see the effort and finally match it. So for Lily's 5th birthday, I thought, maybe this time will be different. We rented a place near the Rockies with a massive backyard, bounce house, pony rides, and a bakery that made custom cakes so beautiful they looked like CGI. I flew my parents and Kelly's family in from the East Coast, covered the airfare, hotel, rental cars. I even arranged for them to arrive a couple days early so they could spend quality time with Lily. It cost me just over $9,300, not that I was keeping score. Okay, maybe a little. But it wasn't about the money. It was about giving my daughter a birthday to remember, and about giving my family yet another chance to show up. 2 weeks before the party, I sent out the final itinerary in our group chat. Flight details, hotel bookings, party schedule, everything color-coded and emoji-labeled. Kelly left it on scene. My mom replied with a thumbs up. My dad didn't say anything. Classic. The week of the party, things got weird. On Monday, Kelly texted me. Hey, small chance we might need to reschedule. We'll let you know. No explanation. I asked if everything was okay. No reply. Tuesday came and went. I followed up. Still nothing. Wednesday night, 3 days before the party, I finally got a response. We're actually going to have to miss this weekend. Something came up. Sorry, that was it. No phone call. No explanation. Just something came up. I stared at my phone like it had insulted me personally. I called my mom. No answer. Called again. Straight to voicemail. I tried Kelly. She picked up, sounding distracted. Hey, I'm just walking into a massage. Can I call you later? A massage. I repeated, dumbfounded. You're missing your niece's birthday for a spa day? There was a pause. Then she sighed like I was the one being unreasonable. Jake, it's not that serious. It's a kid's party. She's 5. She won't even remember. I didn't say anything for a few seconds. I could feel my hands trembling, but I kept my voice level. She will remember. She remembers everything. Kelly laughed, actually laughed. You're being dramatic. We'll do something for her next time we see her. Maybe around the holidays. Chill out. Before I could respond, she said, gotta go, and hung up. I stood in the kitchen for a long time after that, staring at Lily's birthday decorations stacked by the door. The paper crowns. The gift bags with custom stickers that said, Princess Lily's magical 5th birthday. The matching t-shirts I had made for all the kids. She'd been counting down the days for weeks. Every morning, she'd ask me how many more sleeps until the party. And now her grandparents and aunt, people she adored, We're just skipping it. For a spa weekend. I told Emily, and she was furious in that quiet, controlled way that scares me more than yelling. They always do this, she said. Always. And you keep giving them chances. She was right. I knew she was right. But something about this time was different. Maybe it was the way Kelly dismissed it like Lily's feelings didn't matter. Or maybe it was just that I was tired. Tired of being the only one who cared. Tired of protecting Lily from the truth. So I didn't call back. I didn't beg. I didn't argue. But I did make a decision. A very calm, very deliberate decision. And I started with the leftover party favors. The day after the party, which was beautiful, by the way, even without them, I packaged up one of the gift bags. A sparkly tiara, a pink wand, a tiny stuffed unicorn, and a copy of the group photo we took under the balloon arch. Right in the middle was Lily, beaming in her princess dress, holding up a sign that said, "Where's Nana and Papa?" I printed it, framed it, mailed it with no note, no explanation, just the picture, and the party favors they missed. 2 days later, my phone rang. My dad. I let it go to voicemail. Then he called again, and again. Finally, I picked up. He was crying. But by then, I had already started putting the rest of the plan in motion. And what I did next is something they'll be regretting for a long, long time. I wish I could say I felt vindicated hearing my dad cry on the phone, that it filled me with satisfaction or brought closure. But the truth? It felt hollow, like someone had finally broken a glass that had been cracking for years. You brace for the crash, then it happens, and there's just silence. My dad, this usually stoic, emotionless man, was choking out words like mistake and didn't think it through. He said they'd planned the spa weekend months ago, that they didn't realize how important it was to Lily. He kept saying they thought they'd make it up to her later. Make it up to her? I didn't scream. I didn't even respond at first. I just listened as he fumbled through half-hearted apologies and tried to spin their absence into a scheduling conflict, as if a 5-year-old's birthday was something negotiable. He even had the gall to say, "We figured she'd be too distracted to notice." That was when something inside me cracked. Distracted? I repeated slowly. You think she didn't notice? She asked for you. She made cards for you and Kelly. She set aside a cupcake for each of you and made me promise to save them. There was a pause. Then he sighed like the weight of the situation was finally dawning on him. But it was too late. I'd spent years trying to make excuses for them, trying to translate their apathy into something softer, more forgivable. But this wasn't a gray area. This wasn't ambiguous. They chose a facial over family. Hot stones over hot cocoa with their granddaughter. I don't think I can keep doing this, I said finally. Doing what? He asked, voice quiet now. Being the only one who tries. He didn't respond. I hung up. He didn't call back. After that call, everything felt different. Not just emotionally, physically. Like the air had shifted. Like I could finally see things clearly for the first time in years. I realized how much space my family had taken up in my head. How much of my energy was spent managing their emotions while dismissing my own. And it wasn't just me anymore. They were hurting Lily. She was too young to understand the dynamics, but old enough to feel them. And I refused to let her grow up thinking love was conditional. Still, I didn't go nuclear right away. I'm not impulsive like that. I'm a planner. That's probably what makes what I did later so devastating. It wasn't rage. It wasn't even revenge, not at first. It was clarity. But before we get there was one more line they crossed. One final betrayal that made the decision for me. It happened about a week after the party. Emily and I had just put Lily to bed. She was still talking about her birthday like it had been the royal wedding. I was scrolling through my phone, half watching a rerun of Parks and Rec, when my screen lit up with a group text. Same one I used to plan the party. Kelly, so we're doing Thanksgiving at ours this year, yeah? Can everyone chip in for catering? I stared at the screen for a good 10 seconds. No hi. No reference to the party they bailed on. Just a casual expectation that we'd all show up at her house and pay for the food. Like nothing had happened. Before I could respond, my mom chimed in. Mom, that works. We can fly in Wednesday night. Jake, can you cover our flights again? I'll send you the info. Cover their flights. Again. After they skipped Lily's birthday, without so much as a card. Then Kelly again. And maybe we do a combo thing with Dad's retirement? Save money. Thoughts. My stomach turned. It wasn't even the money. It was the entitlement. The sheer audacity to act like nothing had happened. Like their absence hadn't gutted my daughter's heart. Like I was still the family wallet and planner and emotional punching bag. I didn't reply right away. I needed to cool off, think it through. Emily came back from brushing her teeth and found me sitting on the edge of the bed, still staring at my phone. "What now?" she asked, already knowing the answer. I handed her the phone. She read the messages, her face blank at first, then slowly twisting into disbelief. "They didn't even acknowledge missing her party," she muttered. "Nope. And now they want you to pay for Thanksgiving?" I nodded. "And combine it with Dad's retirement. You know, just to save costs." Emily looked at me with a mix of sympathy and frustration. "Jake, baby, this is what they do. You know that, right? They take, and then act like you're the crazy one when you set a boundary." "I know," I said quietly. "But I think I'm done now." It wasn't a dramatic declaration, just a quiet, calm realization. Like when you finally admit to yourself that the milk's gone sour. You don't need a second opinion, you can smell it, taste it. You just pour it out. So I crafted a reply. Short, polite, final. "Me. I won't be coming to Thanksgiving. We'll be doing our own thing this year. Hope it goes well." The group chat went dead silent for about 10 minutes. Then it lit up. "Mom, wait, what? Jake, Kelly, you're joking, right? You always come." "Dad, is this because of the party? Jake, come on. Don't be like this." I didn't reply. Emily was watching me like I'd just stepped out of a cage. Then the texts turned. "Kelly, wow. So now you're punishing the whole family over one weekend. Mom, you know how sensitive Kelly's been lately. You didn't have to make a scene with that photo. Dad, you're taking things too far. It was just a child's birthday. I should have seen that coming." The classic guilt trip. Turn the blame back on me. Make me the unreasonable one. I didn't take the bait. Instead, I logged into our shared Google Photos album, the one I had been managing for years. The one with every family trip, every holiday, every milestone. I removed my access and deleted my uploads. Not out of spite, out of self-respect. I backed up everything to my personal drive, locked it down, and made a new album. This one just for Lily. Just for us. But the real breaking point came the following weekend. It was a Saturday afternoon. I was taking Lily to a pumpkin patch when my phone buzzed again. This time a notification from Facebook. My mom had tagged me in a photo. It was a picture of her and Kelly at a spa. The caption? "Best weekend ever with my girls. Self-care is the best care. #family first." Family first. I pulled the car over. Emily was in the passenger seat, playing I Spy with Lily, but she noticed my expression instantly. "What happened?" I showed her the photo. She stared at it, blinking slowly. Then she handed the phone back. "You ready?" she asked softly. "Yeah," I said. "I think I am." And that's when I made the call. Not to my parents. Not to Kelly. To our lawyer. We'd been sitting on something for a while. A trust fund Emily's grandfather had set up for Lily. It wasn't massive, but it was solid. And part of the reason I had flown my family in, thrown the party, made all the effort, was because I had planned to include them in her future. They were listed as backup guardians in our will. They had been earmarked as trustees in the event something happened to me and Emily. But no more. I told the lawyer to remove them all. Effective immediately. We named our close friends, Ava and Darren. Instead, people who had actually shown up for Lily. Who called her just to say hi. Who brought her puzzles and sat on the floor playing Princess Tea Party without a hint of boredom. After I hung up, I looked at Emily. "They don't deserve any of it," I said. "No," she agreed. "They never did." The fallout didn't come immediately, but it came. And when it did, it was uglier and more revealing than I could have ever predicted. There's something unsettling about cutting ties with your family, even when you know it's the right thing to do. You expect a clean break, but what you get is silence. Then echoes. Then aftershocks. That first week after I made the changes with the lawyer, after I officially removed my parents and sister from anything tied to Lily's future, I kept waiting for a bomb to go off. For the phone to ring. For someone to show up at my door, demanding to talk. But instead, nothing. Just radio silence. Which, honestly, was worse. Because when someone yells, you can respond. You can argue or defend or walk away. But when they go quiet, it leaves space for doubt to creep in. Maybe I overreacted. Maybe I should have explained more. Maybe there was still time to fix it. But every time I started to go down that rabbit hole, Lily would say something that pulled me out. Like when she asked, "Daddy, did Nana like my unicorn drawing?" Or when she wanted to FaceTime Annie Kelly to show her a dance she made up. And each time, I had to pause, swallow the lump in my throat, and find a way to redirect. Because the truth is, she did remember. All of it. The week after Halloween, I was helping Lily pick out pictures for her My Family collage at preschool. She had a whole pile of printed photos to choose from, and I watched her shuffle through them with the seriousness of a museum curator. She picked a photo of me and Emily at the zoo, one of our dog wearing sunglasses. Then she paused at a photo of her blowing out the candles on her cake. Her face lit up with joy. She looked at it for a long time. Then she whispered, "But where was Nana?" I froze. She wasn't asking to guilt trip anyone. She was asking because she genuinely didn't understand. In her world, family shows up. That's the rule. And when they don't, it's not just confusing, it's scary. I crouched down beside her, trying to keep my voice steady. "Sweetheart, sometimes people say they'll come, and then they don't. But it's not because of you. It's never because of you." She didn't respond, just stared at the photo a second longer, then quietly put it back in the box. That night, after she was asleep, I went out to the porch with a beer and just sat there, staring at nothing. Emily came out a few minutes later, wrapped in a blanket. She didn't say anything at first, just handed me a second beer and leaned against my shoulder. "I miss what I thought we had," I said finally. Not what we actually had, but the version I tried so hard to believe in. Emily nodded. "I think that's the hardest part. Grieving the version of them we created in our heads." And she was right. That's what grief looks like when it's not about death. It's quiet, complicated, lingering. Over the next few weeks, the silence from my family continued. No texts, no calls, not even a passive-aggressive email. The group chat stayed dead. They didn't even send a card for Lily on Thanksgiving. But here's the thing. After a while, I stopped waiting. I started waking up with more energy. I found myself laughing at little things again, like Lily's wild bedtime stories or Emily dancing in the kitchen while cooking. I took on a couple more freelance projects at work and actually felt excited about them. I started going to the gym again. Not to punish myself, not to cope. Just because it felt good. Then, something surprising happened. About 3 weeks after Thanksgiving, I got a message from a guy I hadn't talked to since college, Mark. He worked for a regional tech firm and had stumbled across a blog post I wrote on UX design. "Didn't realize you were still in the game," he wrote. "We've got a senior role opening up. Would love to talk if you're open." I stared at the message for a full 5 minutes. I'd been coasting in my current job for years. Decent salary, no real growth. I told myself it was enough because I didn't want to rock the boat. But now, I realized the only reason I'd stayed was because I was too exhausted emotionally to dream bigger. I replied. We set up a Zoom call. 2 interviews later, I got an offer, 20% more than my current salary, with a leadership track. Remote first. Full flexibility. Emily cried when I told her. I think I did too. "I'm proud of you," she whispered. And for once, I believed it. I was proud of me too. The new job brought more structure into my life. But more than that, it brought purpose. I was mentoring younger designers, leading projects, helping shape the company's user experience strategy. I was challenged, valued, seen. And that sense of momentum started bleeding into the rest of my life too. Emily and I started planning date nights again. We carved out one evening a week just for us, even if it was just pizza and a Netflix documentary after Lily went to bed. We started dreaming again, talking about maybe moving to a place with more yard space, starting that Etsy store Emily had always wanted, taking Lily to Disneyland the next summer. We weren't just surviving anymore. We were living. And as for Lily, she blossomed. Her teachers told us she was more confident, more talkative. She started drawing little thank you cards for her friends at school. She wrote one for Emily that said, "Thank you for snuggles and pancakes." She wrote one for me that said, "Thank you for being my best daddy." I kept that one in my wallet. Of course, not everything was perfect. The holidays were tough. We spent Christmas morning, just the 3 of us, opening presents by the fireplace while snow fell softly outside. It should have been idyllic. And it was, in many ways. But there was an empty space too. A phantom limb where family used to be. I caught myself wondering if my mom would ever send a gift. If Kelly's kids asked about Lily. If my dad missed me at all. But I didn't let the sadness take root. I acknowledged it, then let it pass. Like weather. Then came New Year's Eve. We were hosting a small get-together with a few close friends. Ava and Darren came by, as did a couple neighbors. Lily stayed up way too late eating popcorn and yelling Happy New Year at 9:42 p.m. We were halfway through playing charades when my phone buzzed. A new email. Subject, regarding the trust. I opened it. It was from my mom. The tone was formal. Cold. Not like her at all. She wrote that she had become aware of some recent changes regarding Lily's trust and wanted to understand the rationale behind her removal as a trustee. She said she and my dad had always had Lily's best interests at heart, and that this development had raised serious concerns. She ended the email by saying, "We hope this is some sort of misunderstanding. Please advise." I stared at the screen, my heart rate spiking. I hadn't told them. I hadn't planned to tell them. I figured it was my business. Lily's business. Not theirs. But clearly, someone had tipped them off. And deep down, I knew who it was. Kelly. She was the only one in the family savvy enough to go digging. The only one who might have figured it out through some shared contact or leftover paperwork from before we locked things down. And the timing was not a coincidence. They hadn't reached out when they missed the party. Not when I skipped Thanksgiving. Not even for Christmas. But the moment money or control was taken off the table, now they were concerned. I didn't respond that night. I poured myself a drink, joined Emily and our friends on the back deck, and rang in the new year with a quiet, content heart. But the next morning, I sat down and drafted a reply. Not to explain, not to apologize, but to make something very, very clear. Because whatever illusion they were still clinging to, that they were entitled to a place in our lives just because of biology, was about to be shattered. I started the email with "Dear Mom," but deleted it before I even got to the first sentence. Dear felt dishonest. Formality felt pointless. I stared at the blinking cursor for a while, thinking about how many chances I'd given them, not just to be in Lily's life, but to be decent, human. I thought about all the little wounds over the years that I had brushed off. The holidays where I paid their way, only for them to complain about the food. The birthdays they forgot. The last-minute cancellations. The way they treated Emily like a placeholder instead of my partner. The time they brought gifts for Kelly's kids, but handed Lily a Dollar Tree coloring book, then made a joke about how she doesn't know the difference anyway. No, this wasn't going to be another polite, diluted version of the truth. They didn't deserve that. Instead, I wrote, "This isn't a misunderstanding. Lily's trust is no longer your concern. Your removal as trustee was deliberate and final. The reasons should be obvious, but since you've taken the time to write, I'll give you the courtesy of a clear explanation. You chose not to show up for her 5th birthday, not because of an emergency, not because of illness or unavoidable circumstance. You chose a spa weekend. You prioritized massages over a little girl who spent weeks making drawings for you, practicing how to say thank you for coming in a princess voice, and saving a cupcake in the fridge with your name on it. Then you posted photos, smiling, wine glasses in hand, with the caption #FamilyFirst. You didn't call. You didn't explain. You didn't apologize. After the party, I sent you a picture. You never replied. But when I chose to legally sever your access to Lily's future, suddenly you found your voice. This is not a negotiation. It's a boundary. We are no longer available for your convenience. I signed it with my full name, not Love, Jake, and hit send. It was the most cathartic keystroke of my life. I half expected a phone call within the hour, but the silence that followed was deafening. And then, inevitably, the storm came. Not from my mom, at first. Not even from my dad. From Kelly. She called at 11:13 p.m. that night. I stared at her name on the screen for a while, debating whether to answer. Emily was next to me in bed, reading, but when she saw my face, she said, "Put it on speaker." I picked up. Kelly's voice was flat and venomous. "So that's it," she said. "You're cutting everyone off because we missed a kid's party?" I didn't respond right away. I wanted her to fill the silence. "You've always been dramatic, Jake. Always making things bigger than they are." "You're calling me dramatic," I said slowly. "After you skipped your niece's birthday for a spa and then leaked information about her trust." There was a pause. "I didn't leak anything. I mentioned it. Because Mom was upset. She thought you were being unfair. Unfair would be letting people who treat my daughter like a backup plan have access to her future." I said, "You had a chance. You all had a chance. This isn't about one party. It's about everything that came before and everything that came after." Kelly scoffed. "You think you're some moral authority now? You always thought you were better than us. Just because you got a nice house and a wife who cooks dinner and a kid who does ballet." Newsflash, Jake, real life isn't a Pinterest board. Emily raised an eyebrow and mouthed, Wow. I smiled grimly. Real life, I said, is showing up. It's being there when it matters. It's not about Instagram captions and spa packages. Kelly's voice cracked just a little. You're going to regret this. No, I said. I really won't. And I hung up. That night, lying in bed, I felt the weight shift again. Not sadness this time, certainty. Like I'd just stepped off a shaky dock and finally felt solid ground beneath my feet. But even with that clarity, a new feeling crept in. Anger. Not petty anger. Not revenge fantasy anger. Something deeper. The kind that comes from realizing just how long you've been gaslit. How long you've played the good son, while everyone else treated your effort like an obligation. I didn't want revenge for me. I wanted accountability for Lily. And that's when the idea began to form. A way to give them a taste, not of pain, but of absence. The very absence they had inflicted on Lily. But this time, on a stage they couldn't ignore. I started quietly. First, I removed them from my social media. Not just unfriended, but blocked. No more photos. No more updates. No more access. Emily did the same. Then we created a new private family album, just for our closest circle. Ava and Darren, Emily's sister. A few of Lily's godparents. People who had earned a seat at the table. Next, I updated our family tree on the ancestry site my dad was obsessed with. I marked my parents and Kelly as private, meaning no one could view their profiles without my permission. It seems small, but it wasn't. My dad treated that site like a legacy scrapbook, and I had the admin rights. But the real setup came with Lily's 6th birthday. We started planning in January, just after New Year's. Emily wanted to keep it low-key after everything last year, but I had a different idea. Not extravagant, but intentional. Personal. We rented a cozy lodge by a lake about an hour outside the city. Nothing fancy, just peaceful, natural, surrounded by pine trees and fresh air. We invited a small group. Only people who had shown up in our lives consistently. No more empty seats. No more guilt invites. But here's where it gets interesting. Emily's cousin, Rachel, is a professional photographer. She offered to document the weekend. Candids, portraits, video clips. Her idea was to make a short montage we could show at the end of the party on a projector. A celebration of Lily's year. School highlights. Family moments. Adventures. A living scrapbook. And I had one very specific request. At the end of the video, I wanted to include a short clip. A simple shot of Lily, standing in front of the birthday cake, turning to the camera and saying, "Thank you for coming to my party. It means so much when people show up. Not coached. Not forced. Just honest. Real." Rachel agreed. Emily raised an eyebrow, but said nothing. "You're planning something," she said later that night. I nodded. Not a fight. Just a message. Because I knew, deep in my bones, that someone in the family would get curious. Someone would reach out to one of our mutual friends. Someone would ask to see the video. And when they did, they'd see exactly what they missed. Not just the balloons or cake or lake view. They'd see what a real family looks like. One that shows up. One that remembers. I made a backup copy of the video. One for Lily's memory box. One for us. And one for future use. Because this wasn't about cutting people off. It was about replacing them. Not with strangers, but with people who chose us. Again and again. And while my old family spiraled in silence, bitterness, and denial, we built something better. But the final move? That was still coming. I was just waiting for the right moment. It happened 6 weeks after Lily's 6th birthday, almost a year to the day since everything had started to unravel. The party had been perfect. The weather held. The lake sparkled. The cabin glowed with laughter and stories and the kind of warmth you can't fake. Lily was radiant, confident, joyful, surrounded by people who genuinely loved her. Her little, "Thank you for showing up," line, delivered in that sweet, sincere way only a child can manage, hit every adult in the room like a quiet punch to the chest. We played the video at the end of the night, everyone a little misty-eyed, clapping and hugging Lily as she beamed with pride. It wasn't just a birthday. It was a turning point. I knew, though, that it wasn't the final one. Because a week after that party, someone, likely a mutual friend of Kelly's, reached out and asked, "Hey, I heard Lily's birthday was amazing. Can I see the video?" I sent it without hesitation. No edits. No commentary. Just the truth. 4 days later, I got a message from my mom. It was short. 2 sentences. "We saw the video. We didn't realize how much we'd hurt her. Or you." I didn't respond. That same evening, Kelly texted me. Not in the group chat. Not with sarcasm or attitude. I don't know how we got here, Jake. But I see it now. I do. I didn't reply to that either. It wasn't out of spite. It was just done. The door wasn't open anymore. And that's when the final piece of the plan came together. The part one hadn't even intended as revenge, at least not at first, but which ended up hitting them harder than anything else. My grandfather, my dad's father, had passed away 3 years earlier. He was old school, emotionally distant, but sharp as a blade and ruthlessly fair. He left behind a modest estate, split evenly between my dad and uncle. But what most people didn't know was that he'd also created a smaller, separate trust, just for his great-grandchildren. He was obsessed with legacy, and for reasons I never fully understood, he made me the custodian of that trust once Lily was born. It wasn't a huge amount, maybe $80,000 total, to be divided among any great-grandkids. The condition was that it be used only for education, medical needs, or to support any child in a moment of family crisis. At the time, it felt symbolic more than anything. My grandfather wasn't sentimental, but he had always been wary of how my dad treated me. He once pulled me aside at a Thanksgiving dinner, whiskey on his breath, voice gruff, and said, "Don't let your old man bully your kid the way he bullied you. Protect her." I never forgot that. When I got the trust paperwork, I filed it away and didn't think much of it. But after the birthday video made its quiet rounds, something changed. Kelly emailed me, officially, through a lawyer. It was about her son, Ethan. He was 9 and had recently been diagnosed with a learning disorder. They needed to enroll him in a specialized school. It was expensive, and the insurance wasn't covering it. The email claimed she'd recently learned about the great-grandchildren trust and was requesting an equitable distribution. She wasn't just asking. She was demanding. Her lawyer referenced the trust terms I was intimately familiar with. What they didn't realize was that as the custodian, I had full discretion. And that was the key word. I replied, officially, through my own lawyer. We acknowledged the request. We referenced the conditions of the trust. And we included documentation, emails, text messages, even screenshots, showing a pattern of absenteeism, emotional neglect, and disinterest in Lily's life. We pointed out the very clear condition that support would be offered to children in a moment of family crisis, and that such support would be considered within the context of each family's relationship with the custodian and the great-grandparents' values. Then, we closed with this. After review, the custodian has determined that at this time, the trust funds will remain allocated solely to Lily Marshall, whose needs and family circumstances are currently being met with ongoing investment and attention. Future reconsideration is not guaranteed. The fallout was immediate. First came the phone call from my dad. Not angry, panicked. "You can't do this," he said. "Ethan's struggling. He needs that school. He deserves it," I said. "But this isn't about him. It's about the way you've treated us." "That's not fair, Jake. We've made mistakes, but that doesn't mean the kids should suffer." "No," I said. "It means you suffer from the consequences of your choices." He tried again, pleaded, even offered to apologize in writing if it meant I'd reconsider. But it wasn't about apologies anymore. It was about accountability. The next day, Kelly called. She didn't yell. She didn't beg. She cried. And that almost broke me. Because for all her flaws, she was still my sister. And I believed that some part of her loved me. Maybe even loved Lily. But love without effort is just decoration. And I wasn't going to let my daughter grow up surrounded by people who only showed up when they wanted something. "I wish it were different," I told her. "I really do. But you taught me what your version of family looks like. And I'm building something better." I heard her whisper something before she hung up. "I guess I finally know how you felt." And maybe that was true. Maybe, for the first time, they understood. The weeks that followed were quiet again. I heard rumors through mutual friends. My mom was devastated. My dad was ashamed. Kelly told someone I was cold, that I had changed. And they weren't wrong. I had changed. Because I had spent years believing that family meant loyalty, forgiveness, endurance. But now I knew better. Family means presence. It means choice. And when people show you they've chosen themselves over and over again, you believe them. That spring, Lily's preschool teacher pulled me aside after a parent event. "She's so confident," she said. "So kind. She always volunteers to help the younger kids. And she talks about you and your wife all the time. She knows she's loved." I smiled. Thanks. That's all we want. And it was true. Not revenge. Not legacy. Just love. Just presence. Just showing up. And that, more than anything, was the difference. In the end, it wasn't about the trust. It wasn't about spa weekends or party favors or tearful voicemails. It was about drawing a line and never letting anyone cross it again. The last message I ever received from my dad came a few months later. It was just one sentence. I hope someday you'll let us try again. I never replied. Because I didn't need to. My daughter was surrounded by people who chose her. My home was filled with laughter, not apologies. And I was no longer waiting for a family to come around. I had already built one. From the ground up. And it was stronger than anything we'd left behind.